Hello, hello. This is my meta prediction uh, review guide thing of the new set 5 for when it comes out. Because we have all the cards now, so I guess it's good if I do content to actually have an opinion on them all. So I brought them into 6 different colors, and we'll start with amber first. But yeah, I like to say I've never been the best at sort of building a deck straight from the start of the set. I go a little bit over the top with it and forget that, if Blue Steel was good in set 4, there's no reason why it would be bad in set 5 with just a few cards on top. I mean, we barely added anything besides Fortisphere and Aerial. Some of us play Aerial. So, yeah, like I say, there could be some standout stuff that's going to happen in set 5. Set 4, I felt really changed the decks around with the way that Flynn was added to RP, and that just changed like the dynamic of how everyone needs to do things on turn 2 in a certain way now, which is something I just couldn't have predicted because I didn't look at those cards in them ways. But yeah, I've still got some opinions and I might as well voice them really. So looking at Amber first, I don't think there's anything staggering. I think this card is pretty bad. It's sort of doing, I put a meme and it got quite a lot of likes on Twitter. Sort of trying to do what Ariel and Bell does, but in a very, very poor way, I think. You can't make this character, you can't play this character, but you can. I think you can cheat it out as long as there's 5 on board, and then I believe it does stay. It's not like a condition it needs to keep. So if you can ever get to 5 characters on board, that's not too bad. I think you've got a lot of 1 drops in Amber Steel Song. But then it's a 5/5, and let's be honest, you can Zeus that. Or, if you're up to a point where you can afford 5 characters on board and a 5 cost, you're probably in BP range. So I think Steel and Red both would have easy answers for it. So it's a big investment for quite a nice payoff, though. But I don't see it sticking around. It won't trade. It won't do anything else besides get 5 lore. But I'm very happy to see that I'm wrong on that. Prince Naviv as well is one that's mentioned. This is written in Spanish, I think. But you get to cheat out a 6 cost or less song whenever you play it on the board. And instantly my mind goes to Whole New World. So I think that would be a cool idea. If you're not trying to wait for a singer to dry anymore, which means you could actually, I think, in a sense, cut some of your singers really to make room for this. The only issue is this is not a clean cut, remove, then add this in, because it is uninkable. So if you had 4 Whole New Worlds and 4 of these, it's already 8, and you want to be playing like Zeus, Let the Storm Rage on as well. So you're already getting quite high uninkable count. But I feel players are a bit more confident, and I guess you don't really need to go much higher than 5. This guy can be played on 4, and you get a 6 cost song out. So if you had 4 of them, you can cheat out 6 songs in a sense. So you could do a Whole New World, then you could play another one and cheat out a Zeus. So I think he's got some application. The uninkable thing, maybe I lean on too much and think it's just a reason to not include a card. But I really see it, and it's one of the cards actually that sort of got me excited for Amber Steel. And that's like the deck that I might look at for set 5. I'm not dropping Blue Steel. I think I was going to drop Blue Steel at one point because I just thought I want to try something different, and Amber Steel looked like it could take me to wins at store champs and possibly regionals. So I did want to swap over to it, but then Blue just got like a ton of great cards as well announced. So I sort of changed my mind on that for now. But yeah, I still mention that I think that's a good card. Out of the rest, oh, here's the normal version of it. There you go. Oh, he's a Singer 6 as well. Well, he has to be if he's cheating out 6 cost. Did not know that's when he's 6 as well. He also leaves the 6 Singer on the board, so that's pretty nice to keep cheating out songs if he tries. Besides that, I don't think any of these other ones really take my attention. Like these Chrome Con things, I don't think any of them are amazing. There's a Steel one that could almost be good, but it costs 6. And then if they were to just like break it, you're really behind on that, and that was just not a good value. Uh, some bear card. While this character is exerted, your character's name Coda can't be challenged. Yeah, I mean, like I said, none of these characters, none of these cards really scream to me too much, except for where is the cards? Daisy Duck. I think this is really good. The disruption part is a bonus. You could be bottom decking people's dimes, people's Whole New Worlds, people's Be Prepareds, people's castles, like loads of stuff you could be bottom decking, and then putting just like characters in hand that they're probably going to ink anyway, or who really cares? You're questing for 2 and you have a 4 health character on board. I think this card's just really, really good. Steel will have such a hard time removing it. It can't do 4 damage that early on, so they're going to get a lot of damage out there. To the point where, like, right now in my blue steel list in set 4, I'm playing a little bit more anti-early aggro with more hooks. So Hook Smee would deal with it. But still, that takes a lot of drying, and that's still some lore that's going to happen. You can brawl it, but by that time it's probably gained 6 lore, and that would mean that they have to have brawl in hand, which this card can also bottom deck as well. So I think just overall, this card can bring together an Amber Steel aggro list, and possibly just from the power of this card on turn one, could bring sort of aggro decks to actual meta, which I'm very excited for. And we can add in cards like Baloo as well, and just all the current like aggro package that the Amber Steel lists are sort of going towards. Piglet on the play is amazing, you know. So I think yeah, this card as well. It's just better than Lilo, the one drop Lilo. But yeah, this Baloo, maybe even Prince and Eva. I mean, they're all uninkables. But yeah, I think there's an Amber Steel aggro list coming together quite well. And then with Whole New World, you can um, just like keep flooding the board as well, and just keep putting stuff out there. And with the new Steel card, which I'll cover, Steel's the last color I'm going to cover. Which last color I'm going to cover. You've got cards like Pete now, so you can even say like the board's flooded and you can't use Be Prepared, or the board's flooded and you can't grab your swords. So yeah, I think there's a real chance for like a proper full meta aggro list. I mean, we've had Amber Amethyst, but I think um, that was never really that meta, was it? Let's be honest. Like it was just sort of a cheese thing. And the Purple Fast has been really good. That can get a really nice run versus red purple. But I think right now, yeah, we'll have this strong actual tier list ranked aggro list, which is a prediction, which is a mad one, but I'm going to go for it. The next color is purple. I don't believe there's many standouts here. Someone mentioned this Cogsworth card when you play as a character, choosing character skip. I mean, that's just a Blurple could shift on that, but I don't know how much Blurple wants to shift. I don't know how much Blurple wants to do anything, to be honest with you, as I don't play much Blurple. But yeah, there's not many here. This is interesting. If you can recycle actions. I don't know what other color you'd pair that with to do that, but just gain 2 lore for an uninkable. I mean, it's not terrible. No one plays lore reduction, and they don't seem to print much lore reduction either, besides a few red cards here and there. So yeah, any lore you get is pretty much guaranteed. But again, there's nothing here I'm that excited about. Purple hasn't been a color that's exciting me. They've got a new bounce, which I don't know how much how important this is going to be for red purple. I generally don't have an opinion on this. Um, the 3/7 on 4 is pretty nice. I mean, you're 2 turns away from Medusa range, and you've got something that could just keep trading. Imagine Steel would just struggle with this. You need a big character to hit it, or maybe a Zeus and it hits. So it's not a terrible card. Yeah, I think getting a 4/7 up. Maybe I'm underranking that. I think I am. That health was pretty nice that early on. Maybe I'm saying bad things about a card that people have already rated quite high, but I think this will be one that RP players will try out for sure. And I just want to mention this. There's a Sapphire card as well. They've done this thing in this set where it's just like don't. It's a vanilla card, but they just give it really fat stats. So like it quests for 3, it's a 4/8, and it costs 6. They have a Donald Duck card as well in Sapphire that costs 4. It's a 5/5 and quests for 2, I think. I think that's kind of cool. That's really pushing the limits of what an uninkable is. I don't know how meta good that is. I mean, getting a 4/8 out on turn 6 is alright, but for it to be uninkable and to be clunky in most matchups, it's strange. I find an uninkable has to do quite a big task before it's valid. I'll just go to page 2 and see if. Yeah, there isn't too much. I believe this card though as well. Uh, just because the idea of Ruby Sapphire is like the red cards want to be big, powerful cards that you play on board, and they, are really vicious and they just do a lot. They impact the board like a Maui does, or a BPEP removes the entire board. And then the purple cards want to just cycle and draw and edge you towards win con. So it quests for 2. It's a 2/2. It's evasive, so it's kind of awkward to remove. And when it's banished, it draws them a card. So it's going to get on the board. It's going to quest and do stuff, and then eventually they're going to have to remove it with whatever they can. So all round, it seems like not a bad card. I think if I was like a real hardcore RP player, I'd want to try it out. It's not going to win you the board, but I guess you can run it into things. 2 damage is nice with the maths on some stuff. So yeah, that's another card as well. But overall, purple hasn't interested me too much. I think purple still aggro might be leaning more towards. I think the archetype for that is better. Because purple steel mid range is good. Good all round, but it just doesn't stand out too much. I think a deck needs a real strong archetype, so going full aggro would be nice. And they've still got quite a lot of aggro cards to play with. But yeah, I'm going to start talking about purple because, like I say, there's nothing there that really excites me. Green, I like what they've sort of. I don't know if I'm getting this wrong, but the direction it seems with green they've gone. It's still the disrupty, mess with people's tempo, mess with people's game plans, cards. I like that, but maybe I don't know if it's after Bucky or just in general. They seem to go on back on the heavy discarding, and I'm just going to mention this one card. Okay, this is heavy discarding, but in my opinion, it seems fairly fair. If you play it on turn three, you're likely to have a small hand size anyway, and you can also Bender on that turn. So if you're playing with a Quill, you're gonna probably have a small hand size anyway, so it might just be impacting them. I know green never really goes that high, but if you play it with a Diablo, you can't just do that bank a giant hand sort of combo anymore. And it could, if you're gonna go for the Prince John thing, play Prince John, then discard like heavy. You're gonna have to keep it at maths 3. I think into red purple. I mean, for the rest of the after turn 3, for the rest of the game, you keep them at this like 3 hand size. That's kind of cool. I think that's not a bad thing. But into like steel or like any other matchup, I don't know how amazing that is. And maybe if it's like such a bad card into other matchups, do you really want to play it just for the red purple, or maybe you play a smaller amount and then you try mulligan for it? But yeah, it's an interesting card, and I don't think the disrupt for it is as vile as Bucky Shift Diablo player Floodborn as well on turn 3, which is just I think that's too much. And then you can sing a sudden chill. Why not throw that in there and do 3 cards in one turn? This is a condition. You have time to react to it. You can be like, I'm just gonna play a bunch of cards out to get to 3. So yeah, I don't find it as vicious as some people think it is, but I think RP will struggle with it if it becomes meta. But overall, the cards they don't seem I don't know how to put this. They just don't seem as mean as just the hard discarding. I mean, like set one, you just had sudden chill, which is discard a card, 2-drop Ursula. I'm gonna take a song out of your hand. This is when you play this character, each opponent chooses one of their characters and returns the card to their hand. That to me is just not as vicious disrupt as a sudden chill or a 2-drop Ursula is. You get the card back to your hand. You probably wanted it on board. That's why you played it on the board. But it's still disrupt. It's still going to be awkward, but it just doesn't feel like I'm getting massively punished just because I'm playing its green. I believe the Anna card as well took my eye. When you play this character, you may pay 2 less to choose one. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. Chosen character gets -2. Yeah, I don't know how you'd set her up and she'd stick for very long. Brawl would just take her out very early on. I found that quite interesting though. The issue with green is I find they pair with steel and then they don't have much to protect their characters with. If you paired it with like blue, you could get Cogsworth, or you paired it with amber, you could get sort of blockers up and stuff like that. I don't know, I may be talking a lot of rubbish there, but I just find whenever you play against green, you know their characters are going to be fragile, and that's why I found Hidden Cove just such a big card for them. And I don't know why a lot of people were cutting that, but it was now you can buff your characters. So instead of it being a 1/1, it's a 2/2 or whatever, like with Bucky, or like instead of Murfolk being an 0/1, it's a 1/2 now, and it's just not going to die to a Tinkerbell. It's probably going to die to a Grab Your Swords, but they just didn't have much else to protect their characters besides Hidden Cove. But we are on set 5, so I'm going to stop talking about set 4. Besides that, again, these sphere things and chroma things, I don't know. I don't think they're even from a movie. Just not really interested me very much. Here we go. What was it? During each opponent's turns, whenever one of your characters is banished, you may return a chosen character to the player's hand. For free, do you really want to set that up? It just doesn't seem amazing. To me, it doesn't interest me much. I find this card could be quite good. When you play this card, you may pay 2 less for the next action. Just setting up a 2/4, it's a healthy quest. If that quested for 2, I think that would be an amazingly powerful card because you get some resource from it, you get some action from it, and then you set up a 2 quester. But as it quests for just 1, but it still is evasive and it can still sing. I think that's quite a nice card that I would want to test out. I don't want to sing its praises too much. I don't think it's amazing. But there's also another thing that they've done with green. Just sort of, as colors have their archetypes, so like blue is the tool ramp thing, red is like just powerful big stuff, purple for some reason is card draw. Red and steel are both the removal cards. Sorry. Amber is all singer based, isn't it? And singers and songs and stuff like that. It doesn't mean any of the other colors don't do those things. Like every color has items, but blue is like big on its items because of hero and cards like that. But they've seemed to have green done this thing of like for each damage on the opposing character, you pay. They've done this like archetype with the Robin Hoods where putting damage on other characters or your opponent's characters benefits you. This character gets one for each opposing characters, and I think that's quite cool that you can sort of build. There's another way to build green now. I don't know how good that is, and I don't want to say it's very good. But cheating him out that quest for 4 and he's a 6/6, so it's going to be hard to remove as well. I think that's pretty nice. Then again, the thing is they didn't give many stuff that will throw the damage out. Um, so you're gonna have to pair it with steel to get things like Tinkerbell and Grab Your Swords to throw the damage out for you. So they're kind of forcing you into playing steel. But I think there's gonna be a lot of fun Robin Hood's builds and focusing in on just throwing damage out there, questing for big. This also has ward as well, which is insane. I believe there's also a location as well. Your character's named Robin Hood here, may move here for free. Characters gain ward, so you can even ward up the ones that don't have ward. So yeah, I think that's cool. I don't know if it's like Beast OTK level cool because the issue of Beast OTK was that you had to throw the damage out, but Cogsurf just beat it because they couldn't get past the resist. And I remember how grueling that was for them. That was just a harsh loss. But against any other deck, it's fine. But yeah, maybe you could even add that in with Beast OTK and capitalize on the sort of throwing the damage out there for the benefits of resetting your Beast. And then on top of that, you can also play Robin, so you could use that Sheriff of Nottingham to throw the damage out, reset the Beast, and then start throwing Robin Hoods out. So I think that's a cool thing. I wouldn't test it because I don't care enough, but I'm excited to see if anyone does test it or tries with it. Not really feeling this card too much. Whenever your character's challenged the damage, I mean, you have to get the damage out and then you have to hit. It's a 4/2, so let the Storm Rage on removed card. That's not amazing to me. If chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you, draw cards. I think that's quite nice. Um, Mainly for the green steel aggro deck. 4 is going to cost you a lot, and they don't ink very high. But maybe you have other options. I think I'd try that out and see how it goes. Maybe if you played it with 5 ink, you could do it, throw one thing out like a Merfolk or something, and then next turn just flood again because you've got a full hand and hope they haven't progressed too much towards winning the board. But I think that's very nice. You could do 1, 2, 3, just flood, flood, flood. Remember who you are, fill your hand up again, and then continue doing it for the next few turns. I'm not trying to sell this card too much here. I'm not trying to sell any of these cards because I don't play that much green. I've played a bit in set 3. But, green's always had a draw problem. Diablo's good, but the thing is, the more we play of Diablo, the more people just know how to deal with it. So even there, it's lacking. I think Prince John for the hand draw is better, but if everyone remembers set 3, once someone sets up a Prince John and they know that's what they're going to go for, you can just dump your hand and deny them any card draw and then play top decks better than them if they're built on an aggro list that's just top decking cheaper characters. But still, just more options for green to draw, I think is pretty good for the colour. So red. I generally have scrolled, before this video, I have scrolled up and down for about 2 or 3 minutes. No, probably longer than that. It's probably about 10 minutes. Trying to find a red card that was worth mentioning. And I don't think I could find one. And this isn't uncommon. I find every set, red barely gets anything. Set 3, the gym was quite interesting for them to play around with, but most ended up cutting it. I think maybe they just hit the mark too hard and set 1, with Maui being amazing, Maleficent just being take a thing out, Beeper being an entire board wipe. It's quite hard to power creep or write a card that would be like, hey, I might not play Beeper, I might play this. I mean, you had the red Sisu that people have opted to use instead of Beeper. But I feel in set 1 or the earlier sets, they really just knocked it out of the park with creating a bunch of staples for red. And then since then, they haven't really added much. I mean, like, red doesn't come out and there's a bunch of cards we want to add. I'm probably not remembering a lot of cards right now, and that's the issue. RLS Legacy was kind of fun. Their Chroma Con thing was probably the worst of all of them. Chosen character gets +1 this turn. It's weaker than Vitalisphere, Shield of Virtue. It's in the middle, but it's also so behind as well. Yeah, none of these cards really stand out too much. I will mention this card. I try not to get into the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to brawl that so it's dead. I don't even play red, so I'm not going to brawl that. I think it could be alright if you pair it with purple. I'm trying to think of any six actions though. Six actions that I'd want to use. You know, if it was seven, that would be brilliant. But because it's six, it's like you could pull a friends. You could pull a friends. I don't know. Maybe we'll actually see that pirate red steel like list actually get some play because you could cheat out a whole new world. The only issue is you'd have to make sure you hit the whole new world after this, otherwise you're going to bottom deck a bunch of cards and maybe you wanted those cards. But yeah, this card's I think this is one of them cards where I'm not looking at it deep enough, and possibly there is some more application there, pairing with a different color or maybe some red colors that are pretty good. I mean, you can cheat out a brawl, cheat out a Bee King undisputed. So yeah, like I say, the more I think about it, the more I think a very serious theory crafter could take something from this card. Like I say, it's a Robin Hood, so you can actually pair it with the green Robin Hoods, maybe red. Um, Maybe Amber Emerald actually gets some play this set, but I don't know. Besides that, like I said, I scrolled up and down quite a while, and I just couldn't see anything that really stood out to me um, that I'd like to mention about red. So I'm really sorry if anyone enjoys the color red, but it's just not looking great for me. But that's fine because, like I say, all their staples are in set one, and they're all really good. Um, we go to Sapphire because I'm pretty sure that's what Sapphire and Steel is what people want me to talk about. There's a lot of good cards here, and I'll admit at the start of the set, it was around the time this card was released, and it was like in my head, oh, I don't really want to play Sapphire next set if we're getting cards like this because I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's a good card for Sapphire Steel. I think it's a good card for Ruby Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire. Sorry, I'm gonna try stop being convoluted and explain my point here. Um, I think in Blue Steel, I don't think it's very good. I think it's too slow, and if you cheat it out or you ramp up to 8, sorry, with Quill, throw it out, then it dies. You're quite far behind, and you don't really need the card draw effect of getting 2 cards from your Inkwell because you're resource heavy because of a whole new world. So I just don't think the card fits very well. I still think it goes into the range of once it's on the board, it needs to be dealt with, otherwise your opponent will lose. And a 4/9, if you can do that on turn 5, it's pretty big. I mean, against a Ruby Amethyst, we use that for example. What will they have to do? They will have to run a Maui in it and then find 3 other damage somewhere, which isn't impossible if they want a crab, and the Maui will survive afterwards as well. Or they might have a snake set up or a Sisu set up, and they can cheat it, and even a Sisu could do a lot of damage. So they have answers. What would a Steel have to do? A Zeus and then find 4 more damage is pretty actually quite tricky for them. Unless it's you could do a strength with a flooded board, maybe an Ursula Singer strength and double it. So I think a lot of colours do have answers for it. But I think he's just too risky to cheat out on board, and once exerted, he's just a massive target. So I think Sapphire Steel maybe just won't use the card, and also in my head, this is why I was looking at Amber Steel for the next set. If this was the direction of Sapphire, I just wasn't that happy about it. I didn't really like the idea of taking cards out of my Inkwell. Um, I didn't think it benefited the Sapphire Steel deck. I'm going to say all of this, and it's going to be voice clipped, and then like set 5, we're going to find everyone's playing 4x of this card, aren't we? So yeah, I'm just going to keep digging this hole. But yeah, I just felt it wasn't the direction I'd want to go with the deck. I felt it was slow. It was trying to win the board and be be like board heavy rather than just like high roll win them as you can do with Sapphire Steel. But I felt in Ruby Sapphire, I think this card's really really strong. I can't tell if it's stronger than Tamatoa, because Tamatoa is also in that same vein of once this is on board, you need to deal with it because it's a card draw mechanic. With user port, then play Tamatoa again. Just keep cycling. It's a 5/8 quest for a lot. Tamatoa, it can go up to like as many items as you have. It can trade the board. It can do so much, so it needs to be dealt with the minute it's thrown out on the board. The same with this card. But they sort of struggle a little bit on card draw because they can't just refill their hand with Whole New World. What they'll do is, you can play this and get 2 resources back and use them again. So you might have to how far you go and put the card you probably didn't want to put in the Inkwell in there, and then you have a chance of getting it back again. And they have more ramp options as well. They can one jump how far Quill, um, and they get like huge ramp, and then they can reset it down again. And you don't have to play this on 8 as well. You know, you could play this when you're like sat at like 13 or 11 ink. You know, you could set this when you're at such a high amount of ink that when you play it, you aren't going below 10. I'm not saying 10's a prime number for it, but you know, you don't get a massive. It's not that bad at 2 if you're playing it when you're above. Yeah, sorry, the 2 coming out of your Inkwell is not that bad when you're playing it above 8. I think above 10 it's fine as well. So yeah, I think in Ruby Sapphire it would be a card I definitely want to try out. Win the boards, 2 resources to hand, 2 cards to hand, sorry. Instant threat has to be dealt with. So I think it's pretty nice. I'm not going to keep talking about it because I don't have much more else to say. Chromacon, it's yeah, again, it's probably one of the better ones, but it's still just not good. I want to keep talking about how much I dislike them. But going through these here, nothing amazing. Hideaway, I was just a card. I remember when I saw this, I was walking back from my game store and I checked the spoiler chat in 20 Lore and this was announced and I thought, oh my god, that's awesome. And then I sort of settled down and I was like, you're probably never going to use it on a castle. If you're playing Kuzco, do you really want this to also take up space in your deck? So, you know, it's good. It's good that we have more options. And it was good that we have a dime and like location removal option, which is just an action for 2. So, you know, it's just good to have those sort of things when you deck build. But would I play it? I don't know. In my head, probably not right now. I think I'd try Kuzco and see how far I get with that. And I think the Kuzco card that puts a locational item into the chosen player's Inkwell. God, I got so confused there. Into the chosen player's Inkwell, I think would be the card I want to try the most and see how far we go with that. But then it's good to be like, hey, the Kuzco's not working out. In reality, we've got Hideaway, we've got some other cards to play around with. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. And this was another one I mentioned, the blue card. It's like they've done this thing of it's an uninkable vanilla, but it does like a load of it's like just a big guy you can play on 4, which sort of doesn't amount to much in a Mickey build because on 3 you play Mickey to get to 4, and then next turn you ink to get to 5, so you could play a 5 cost and like you could play a 5/5 if you wanted to. So and then in the 1 jump ahead build, do you really want to have 2 uninkables in hand, 1 jump, then 4 just throw this out here rather than a Tala or a Hiram? I think like because you probably want to start drawing again. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Maybe I'm underselling it. Maybe in sealed events, that's just like a really good card, like a cheap 5/5. I don't know. I don't want to keep talking about the card too much. This is one I want to test. I don't know how good it will be. Um, I don't know. I feel like you could do a McDuck and a just throw your popsicles out there and then set these up and then just be like, when you pass turn, if you haven't dealt with my locations, my items or whatever, this guy, you're gonna get me. You're gonna give me a load of lore. I'm gonna gain a bunch of lore. I'm gonna gain 4 or 5. You know, I'm gonna gain whatever lore I gain from this. You know, if you had a McDuck mana set out, this guy and a bunch of porps, it's like if you don't do anything, I get 4 lore. Cool. I'll take my 4 lore. And then you put another McDuck on there, and it's like I gain 6. So I think it's interesting because he doesn't do much to fight back. You'd have to be like a Tinkerbell standing guard to protect him. Just gets brawled, just gets Zeused, even Zeus with a Cogsworth. So, you know, I think it's one I want to try out, but because he's so passive with having the low damage, or no damage, sorry, I don't know, I don't want to oversell the card and like tweet about it and say it's amazing, and it turns out it really isn't amazing. We're getting close to the card I want to talk about, but Sheriff Nottingham, for every item, this one costs less. I don't know why we are excited about this. I don't think it's amazing. You know, if you wheel into it later on, he's great. I guess you could be like, I got 5 items out. I'll play this for 4. But it's such a situation. There'll be games if someone plays this, and you're not playing it in there. There might be a situation where you know they get to cheat it out later on. You're like, oh wow, they got a 5/9 on board. That was awesome. But overall, I think you're gonna have so many games where it's in an earlier hand, or you just didn't get any items set up because you had to do other things, or you just didn't draw your items. It's just a 9 cost thing that you just don't want to play. And then like you might not even be able to quill it away. So in my opinion, I'm not overwhelmed by the cards. I'll probably be proven wrong at some point, and told that it's a good card. But yeah, it's just it doesn't help me into any of my matchups. It just seems like here's a fat character you can play on board. That's pretty nice, and that's all I can say about the card. But I'm sure people will try it out. I know a lot of people are excited for the card, but for me, it's not what I'm looking at. I'd like to see some tournament results where it's worked out great. I'd like to see some players test it, get some a good amount of games in with it and prove to me it does work, and I'll be excited for it. But this is the card. This is the standout card, and because I don't want my information to be lost, I was going to mention it at the end. But Kuzco and Pete are the two cards I'm most excited about, and they're the two cards that are straight away going into my blue steel list. But it can't be understated. I didn't even know about the resist thing. Like I should look. I don't read cards close enough. I skim over things too much. That resist thing's even fun. I doubt I'd ever use it. But the fact that you can take a dime out of the game, so it's not that it goes into the trash or the discard. It's that it's out of the game now, so Toa can't even retrieve it. That's the big part of this card. The location removal is cool. So yeah, I think taking out the dime is awesome. They're going to have this like cat and mouse game now where we'll be thinking, even in BS mirrors, Ruby Sapphire into BS, you'll be thinking, oh, okay, should I play my dime now? Do they have a Cusco? Do they not? Because it's going to take it completely out, and then you could just nullify a lot of their board. Um, it's just really good, and I think even after, I wouldn't use this to play against a RP who's castled before 7, but after 7, when they've got like a big heap of ink and they can just freely play stuff and afford things, I'd be like, yeah, I don't mind giving you 1 extra ink to take out a castle. Maybe if they reset the board entirely and you just bounce back like a Hiram and a Mickey because you just didn't have an amazing hand, but you draw into a Cusco, so they try and castle you, and then you just take out their castle straight away. Maybe they brawl castle, or you know what I mean, and then they take out your Hiram. But I think it's really good. You bite back, you take out a location, don't really care about the 1 ink, and then you get a free 5 on board that quests for 2, so you instantly force them to answer this as well. So I think just all round this card is just so standout, amazing. I don't know. Maybe you play it as a 4x because it quests for 2. Finding the room is going to be a little bit tricky. Maybe BS is going to have to play around with how it wants to build, but I think we're going to get a lot of standard lists with this card just included. I think Rise of Titans is just, if we look at a few of the other cards as well in the set, I mean, even what's the card called? Hideaway, there's a steel Simba card that I'll talk about as well. I think Rise of Titans just as a card is not going to bring you enough value, and that was always my issue with that card, was you spent 3 ink, they lost the castle, great, but you didn't progress anything, you didn't win any board, you didn't put anything out, you didn't threaten anything, you just dealt with a castle for 3 ink, and that for me isn't great. There was a card, so yeah, I think that's a standout card. We're going to see loads of it, and before I move on, just can't not say how good that is. Try get a playset as early as you can. I can't see that card failing, and I'm going to bet money on that card not failing. It's just going to be a great card. There was a card, it's not on here, but here is the smallest shift of it, I think. Actually, I'll go to page 2 because I want to mention it before. Here is the card. I was over the moon excited for this card. I thought deck searching was the thing that Lorcana has needed for a long time, because you include tech cards and stuff like that. So if you include 2 Rise of Titans, it shouldn't be that I just hope I draw it when you play a castle. It should be that I can search for my answer when I need to, just to make the efficiency of that card greater. Because that's sort of my issue with Rise of Titans. You might not have it when you want it, and then when you draw it when you don't want it, and then it's just like, why has this card ever been put in my deck? But as other TCGs like Pokemon play, you can deck search. So if you include a tech card, like a one-off Pokemon to deal with one of their Pokemon, you can always like search it with a Pokeball. So I felt with this, it was like, right, I need my one-off tech card. I mean, yeah, even if you had good deck searching, you could even just turn Rise of Titans down to a one-off, or like any of your answers, like let it go down to one-off. If you only wanted to, you probably might want to deal with 2 towers. So it's actually 2, but it's fine. But it would just make tech cards be so like, yeah, you could have them on the list and then you could just search for them when you need them rather than I hope I draw it. I just felt that was better, and they clearly want to go down this route of tech carding and stuff like that. Like if you had a search card in red purple, it was like when you played against certain decks in set three, it was like I have two Pinocchios in my deck. They are pretty janky and useless into a lot of matchups, but into these certain matchups I need them. So what I've got to do is hope I get them before turn two or in a mulligan. And I just thought that's just a weird way to play the game in my opinion, because later on you might draw into them and they're just useless. And it's like, why did I waste two deck slots when I could have just took them out, optimized, and said I was never going to beat that play anyway, rather than just preying on this two Pinocchio draw at certain points in the game. It's just weird. I think deck searching was amazing. The only reason I say that is this card's good. The only issue is it needs to shift. And this is going to go back to the card I was looking at. The shift target they gave us was this, which I don't think is very good. A 1/4 can be brawled very early on. There is a 3/4 Merlin from set 1, I believe, and I believe what it does is it just gives support. I am generally going to try that card out and try Merlin out because I want this card. I want the deck searching card to work. I want to be able to deck search. I think it's just really important for Lorcana that they go towards that. If not, maybe go towards sideboarding, but that's a different video. But yeah, they give us this. Don't really do much. 1/4 will get brawled into most matchups. It's not gonna lie, Zeus would kill it. And the other card we had was a 3-cost 3/4, which is just better. Just all round better. So yeah, you don't really care about the two lore. So yeah, I was very excited, and then they gave us a bad shift target. If they gave us something that was just really protected, maybe like like a lot of health, or it had ward or something like that, so we always could get it off. I think if they had ward, it'd be overpowered, but you know what I mean. This is just not good for a deck, so you've got to play 4x of a card that's bad, just in hope that you could shift this card that's good. And overall, I think you just end up with really bad gameplay. So yeah, this card sort of upset me when it was announced, because when it was announced, I knew we weren't going to get another Merlin. And it looks like they're trying to do this Merlin Arthur deck, which is like one of the themed ones, which is cool. I know casual players like themed ones, and if you like that movie, I guess it's from Arthur, the stone thing, Sword in the Stone, or whatever it's called. Um, yeah, I'm sure you'd like this card. So yeah, that's great, cool. But yeah, I think for like meta decks and top level play, yeah, that shifts this big one that I'm not going to talk about again because I've just covered now. I think this big one's sort of out of the question right now. Even a morph type card we could have got would have been great, but yeah. Continuing on, I don't think any of these other ones stand out to me. Tipo, I tweeted, I quite like the look of. And it goes back to my opinion on a hideaway. I like that we have more ramp options, because in set one with one jump ahead, Fishbone Quill is the most optimal ramp card in the game. It's probably the best one. It should be 4x. But they hit it just out of the park with Fishbone Quill, Mickey, and One Jump. One Jump is generally just have an ink for 2. And it's also we won't take a card from your hand, which is just great. Tipo is the reverse. It's have an ink for 2, have a 1/2, and take a card from your hand to put as the ink. So I just like that we have these more options. But as I look at it more, it's not staggering. I think it would require steel decks. It would only be used in steel because it needs that hand refill quite quickly. Say if you're playing this in Ruby Sapphire and you've quilled and then you've tried to Tipo and it's like you've 2 cards down in hand. It's pretty bad. Whereas it could help you dump your hand a bit quicker with with Sapphire Steel. Sorry. So I like that we have more options, but I can't find it fitting into a lot of lists. And I think it'd be taking up deck slots that would just be more important to use other cards. And yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I really looked at it, and I think what in my head when I first saw it was more ramp options. I'm really excited for that. That's great. And then I thought, actually, wait a minute. This is Quill Mickey's better, so I'm just going to probably stick with Quill Mickey for now. But I'd say I'm always surprised by things. Flynn Sisu was a big shocker for me in set 4. I did not even care about that card. I actually wrote set 4 off as like, oh, they're just doing this for fans or whatever. Like all the cards, it just collects cards. Because in Pokemon, what they used to do is they do a set where it wasn't very playable cards, but all the cards were very collectible. So they'd do one for collectors, one for players. And that was my opinion on set 4. Completely wrong. A massive change in the meta. We actually saw a ban. That's how big of a meta change that was. So with my opinions on these cards, take them very lightly. Not many else here. I like the art on the Royal Tantrum Enchanted. I think 4 is too expensive for what that's trying to do there, especially when you can whole new world. So Ruby Sapphire might be more important. Um, but I might mention I keep mentioning Ruby Sapphire and Blue Steel here, but there could be a different color combo that this blue goes with. Blurple, like I said, I'm not big on Blurple. Maybe Blurple wouldn't use Royal Tantrum, just for a bunch of popsicles and a quill. But there might be a different color pairing that comes out of this that I'm not thinking about. But yeah, right now my head's kind of in blue steel and sort of what the meta and what I will predict the meta decks will be, because it just seems that the decks just grow from each set. I mean, Ruby Amethyst is still just the powerhouse that it is. So me thinking that's going to fall out of the meta just because of one set is mad. Blue Steel is still being quite strong. Ruby Sapphire only got better. Green Steel came into its own. Amber Steel is still very good. Purple Steel has its like strengths. So just every deck is going to grow. It's going to find its way into the meta. Um, yeah, but I'm still a believer that Blurple will happen. I'm just not confident enough to deck build that for anyone. Um, this doesn't seem bad. The only issue I have is if I was in Ruby Sapphire, I would probably not care about it too much because on 2 I'm always going to want a Smee. I think Smee would still be better on 2 than the card draw because you probably want a wheel, so you don't really care about how many cards you have in your hand. But maybe in Ruby Sapphire they can do something with this. Second card you put into your inkwell this turn, you may draw a card. So yeah, you could set that up. I mean, if you missed one jump or whatever, you can set that up with Quill, and then you've got a bit of a draw engine going on there, and you probably never exert it, and it just sits there getting you card draw. So yeah, but I think in Sapphire Steel, I just don't know if I'd want it down. I think it's too much, and we already have enough with the whole new world. We're refilling the hand so quickly here. This card is terrifying to look at. I don't know what it's from. Is it? Don't know, some movie. When you play this character, you may draw 2 cards and then put 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. I mean, it's not that bad. A 3/3/5 cost though is uninkable. I don't really have too strong an opinion on that. I don't know if anyone would even bother testing that to see what that would bring to a deck. But yeah, that is what it is. I believe this card is interesting. Each player at the top of their card on it. This is just nice that they're adding another gimmick to the game. No card in the game does something like that, so that's just interesting to see. But is that meta? Is that good? Uh, you could play it with Daisy, so you know what you're going to put on there. You could know what the next card is. It doesn't give you any lore. Why would you set this up on turn 1 unless you're trying to play fun, casual games? So maybe it's just a casual card that's fun. But I mean, deck knowledge is good. But maybe turn 1 that's not great, and you both benefit from that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have a strong opinion on that card. I think it's just a fun card. Um, this was one that hit me off guard, where you can put one of your characters into the inkwell. It's just nice to have more ink options, as I keep saying. It's maybe not going to get played much because if we're just going to put tons of ink options in our deck, we're not going to actually have any win cons there. So yeah, it's a good card. It's not a good. Yeah, it's a good card, but it's just more ink options is good to have. Medal of Heroes, I think there is application for a Heroes deck with Blue Steel. We had the Anna in set 4 that seemed quite good at that, and I remember playing at some locals stores, and they were running these things because I think it also came with one of the starter decks was like a Sapphire Steel aggro list, and it looked quite cool, to be honest with you. It looked quite interesting, and I think there is application for it. Cards like this bring it closer to that, but there's the idea of, is it going to be meta, or is it just going to be a fun casual choice that you can have when you play your league or whatever. The same with all hero decks so far. Actually, I lost to some hero decks in store champs. But yeah, it's in that range of, is there blue steel hero deck great, or is it just another 99 puppies deck that might do alright at some store champs by catching people out? But I think a card like this brings it closer, and also pair it with a Hiram for card draw if you wanted to. So that's a card that's it's above a meh for me. It's alright. It's good. Characters with sport get +1 and +2 here. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad for just requesting for 9, but I like my locations to give me a lore at the start of my turn, and that's usually a situation for me. Besides Hidden Cove, all the other ones I want them to do that. I'll go into Steel because I think Blue Steel I'm sort of done talking about here. put an item from your hand or discard. It costs 5 or less with 3 exerted. Uh, I find these low cheating out item cards not amazing, especially when they come exerted. Yeah, it's not great for me. For 4, I'd want to be doing so many other things, and I've like Hirams in my deck, and I'd probably play a Tala over that with a 1 jump build. So that doesn't scream too much joy for me. But onto Steel, which, ooh, we got the peak card that I want to talk about. Doesn't seem there's be as many. Oh, it's 34. It's just put it all on. Oh, it's 2 pages. Cool. I can notice I'm rambling. It's probably my longest video, but hey ho. Uh, there's some great Steel cards in here. I'm actually probably quite excited to stick with Steel. And as I'm always been a Steel player over a Red player, I'm quite excited to see that Steel always gets nice cards, and Red's just like, yeah, play of your set 1 staples, they're great, but Steel always gets more options. This Mickey is not amazing, but 1 resist, 1 2. As I say, mentioned a hero deck. It's a hero turn 1. It's gonna be kind of awkward to remove. I'm not gonna oversell this card though, but I think I saw a tweet saying it's great that we got a turn 1 Mickey. But yeah, that could be something people might play in a hero aggro deck. 7 dwarfs. I think you could play this outside the application of a dwarf deck. For turn 2, that's pretty good. Doing a turn the first time you move a character here may do. The 1 damage is pretty nice. The only downside is the 1 damage costs you 2 ink to do that, to move it there. And then afterwards you can't actually do it. You have to move a different character to it to get the 1 damage again. So that's alright. And then you've got the knight bonus as well. So we could play knights outside of just the dwarfs, the characters that got announced. If you're not familiar with what I'm saying, there's a bunch of dwarfs now that are all knights and stuff, which is wicked. But you've still got the prince, which is also a knight, and I believe there must be more knight characters that I can't think about. But I don't think that card's that bad to just have this sort of like ping damage out at things stuff. The only issue is it costs 2. If that cost 1, I think this card would be a lot more powerful. But yeah, it's something to mention. God, that's not great. Skip past that one. During a turn, whenever your character banishes a character and challenge may deal 1 damage to chosen character. That's alright. It's just a 1/4 thing though. That's not amazing. There's a lot of cards here that scream will be good and sealed. That sounds like one of them to me. Going through all of these, there's a couple here I want to mention. Jafar. You can look at this and go, this is a castle killer, or you can look at this and go, this is an 07 character. So once exerted, they can just run stuff into it for damage and take it out. I don't think it's amazing. Opposing characters will oh wait, no, they can't. Jeez, that's actually something. That's why I need to keep reading the cards. Opposing characters of 4 or less can't challenge. It's still just red will destroy this card, and I think red will destroy it so much that you won't want to play it. And there's a load of cards like that. Like Tiana is like my favorite card in the game, but you just don't want to play it because you have such a bad matchup into red that it's like, what's the point of playing it? This is an inkable, so maybe you might want to play it, but then you also want the application of using this into red decks because the main thing is it could take out a castle, and probably most locations. So, I just think overall, once you get through the actual practicality of the card, it just won't see any play. That's just my opinion on it. The quest for 2's alright. If it does stick, it's really, really strong actually. For 6, ink to play that out. But I just think when you actually get into practical use, this card just won't shine enough for you. Maybe into steel matchups it's really good. But yeah. Which is also like World's Greatest Criminal Mind won't activate on it. There's loads of things for it into steel matchups, but I think if you were to pair this with blue steel, you're already winning them matchups. Amber steel might use it. I guess Jafar Wheel could come back. If this card brings Jafar Wheel back, I'll be very, very surprised, but it could happen. So yeah, it's just all around. I'm gonna call it a mid is what people say in Gen Z. It's a mid card. Simba, this is just reads the same as Rise of Titan, so location or a item destroyed. When I first saw the Cusco, I was really excited, and then I saw this card, and I was like, oh no, we'll just play this, won't we, instead? But overall, you have to go back to the fact that you can hide a dime from their Tamatoa from ever being, they can't even retrieve it, so that's just big. The upsides of this card, though, is that you can take out a castle and not worry about ramping them. It does only quest for 1, which I'll admit that sort of sucks. We don't want many one questers in blue steel. I remember when I'm thinking, sorry, a lot of this is blue steel related. So in my head, I always just think of a blue steel deck. So in blue steel, maybe not when we have access to Cusco, that's just better. But amber steel, I think generally they don't have a strong answer uh, to castle. Like, I mean, they can Zeus and hit it, but like this would probably be a really strong answer for castle. I'm not a huge Amber Steel deck builder, so shoot me if I'm wrong. But this seems pretty good. I mean, even Green Steel has always struggled with locations. Does this answer them for them? Probably not. If you had the Bucky build, if Bucky was still around, this would be amazing because it's a Floodborn as well. Alter, I think, means shift in a language. Um, in French, sorry, in French. So it would have been great in that. So you could always threaten castles as well to the point where they probably wouldn't play one, but it would be all right. But Bucky gets errated soon, so that's not great. Um, yeah, I think maybe I would try this in Amber Steel, but other decks I just don't know. It's a really good card, and if Cusco wasn't around, I think this that blue Cusco wasn't here. I think Blue Steel would have tried this because at this point I don't think it's worth playing a Titans when we just have so many other options to remove stuff. And actually, if with the Cusco and the Simba, I mean, right now I've got a hard-headed beast in the deck. That can be cut, because we just don't need that card anymore. So in a sense, that card's been power crept. Not literally because the stats just aren't. It hasn't been like it's a 5/5 and it does all this. It's just I think we don't need that hard-head beast anymore. But this is me going off a tangent on deck building. I think this is all right. I think people will try it. I might even try this and Cusco and just see which I like more. I think I already know in my head that it is the Cusco, but there's always those practical things. It always comes back to of I just for a while, let's use an example. For a while in set three, Dime was out, but no one used Dime. We all used Muck Duck Manners until we slowly realised that Dime was a really good card. Um, so yeah, we've got to try these things out practically, but I will try it and I'll try out Cusco, but I think Cusco comes out on top. Um, I'm going to save this card for last because I think this card is huge and I want to talk about it at the end. Yeah, we got this Arthur package that was alright. Oh, sorry, which card I mean is Pete, by the way. We got this Arthur package. I thought it could be alright for dealing with dealing with Cogsworth because the Blue Steel Mirrors, if everyone knows, it's once you get Cogsworth down, it's sort of a locked down board and removal can only do so much. So I'm not overly. I was looking for answers to Cogsworth, and of course people look at Cindy, but as you cost 7, that's just so much, and you're never going to get that off well. So yeah, but I felt maybe this was all right. The Arthur we got was pretty terrible, so we're not even going to shift it. So this came onto my radar, and I thought, yeah, we can buff something up, resist it. When you play this character, chosen character gains challenge +2 and resist +2. They can challenge. So I thought Smee then get this guy out somehow, make the Smee run into the Cogsworth. The Smee would actually survive because it gets +2 resist, and then you've won the board really heavy there. But how am I ever going to ever get this on the board? I do not know. Without already being in a really bad losing state. Just to deal with a Cogsworth on 5. So, my dreams got big and then they were crushed when I saw the reality of it. But, that's still one to test. It is a legendary, so it'd be hard to get a place out of. But we can always proxy that. I don't know why I'm talking about that either. Yeah, I had hypes for it, but we already have cards like Cinderella and we're not playing them because they don't work against that Cogsworth efficiently. So, yeah, he interested me and then he shocked me. Out of the Chromacons, I think this is probably the best one, but costs 6. But 1 damage whenever you want for free is really, really big. Especially for steel, when you can just add the maths up of like Tinkerbell, then play this, grab your swords, then play this. So I think it's good. It's just the item won't stick for very long into any match besides RP. So yeah, it sort of just falls out of favour a bit more. Nothing else really that stands out. Tug of War was an early card that I looked at and then just thought, bleh, I don't even know why you printed that. There's a dwarf package now. Actually, I'll just mention the dwarfs. Uh, Maybe so it will have to be an amber steel because that's where the other dwarfs are. I don't know if it becomes meta, but it probably could be in the range of a broom sort of tribal deck where you might see it at a store champs here and there. So it's probably best to read what the dwarfs do. Some of them have some interesting ones. When you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2. You know, Maybe there's some benefits with that with a Chernobog or something where you actually want stuff into discard, but overall, and maybe your hand is empty, so you can play it out and draw two. Overall, I think that just goes into the range of broom deck quality. It's like this is all right. Yeah, there we go. Here's another card where it's just like giant stats is uninkable. But yeah, I don't know if I'm overexcited about the dwarfs. I always wanted to play a tribal deck because that's sort of one of my favorite types of decks in Lorcana in TCGs, but we haven't got a good one yet. So yeah, I'll just take that off the radar for now. And at the end, we haven't really got anything else here. Kronk is one that people are sort of excited about. During a turn where this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character of 5 or less for free. It's just a lot of work to get it set up, just to do it all, just to get B prepared, or just to get board wiped. So I just don't think it works, and it's another uninkable, and I think you have to pair it with a lot of uninkables to make it work. So yeah, Kronk for me. I mean, please someone show me how to use Kronk properly, because I'm not excited about that card. But the last card, right, that's everything. I've had an opinion on it. Pete is generally going to be meta defining. I think I can say that with a lot of confidence right now. I don't see a world where people won't try Pete to the point where you might even want to just 4x him because that's insane. Um, think about it like this terms. You can set up a giant board. You know B prep's going to come the next turn. Play Pete out, stop the B prep. Quest with your dime targets, whatever. Maybe it's aerials or a Tamatoa. So you can Tamatoa Pete and just protect it. Force really hard removal. There was another card as well. Actually, I've glossed over. I just want to mention. There's a Bell card as well. When you play this character, your other characters gain ward until the start of your next turn. So yeah, you could do some crazy stuff where you've got a ton of ink and you get Bell and you get Pete, and then you're protecting a Tamatoa that can't even be targeted by anything at all. Like even if they had a big dragon to use to remove it. So I just think this card's great for aggro decks as well. Like I mentioned earlier with the Daisy card, you can get Daisy out, and then the turn where a brawl's going to happen, you play this and you go, no, I want one more turn of 2 lore. You can get like 6 or 8 lore from Daisy, and then they're going to have to play a brawl on turn 4. So like they won't even play a rabbit or anything. They want to like progress their win con. So I think it's just amazing for that. Also, it's not limited to one copy. It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh or any of those other games. You can 4x this thing. You can just play loads. I think Purple Steel as well is actually as much as I don't think that deck's going to be stand out this set, but you can play a snake, you can Pete snake, and then play the Pete the next turn and just keep Peting. Um, you can whole new world with blue steel and just keep playing Pete's out to stall board and just keep winning on questing. It's just overall is going to make this crazy meta where we might even see that songs and actions are just not as important to have in your deck anymore because you're just going to get peated. Um, I think even red players are going to be so happy when they play against another red player because that means there's going to be no Pete happening in that game. But yeah, it's just going to change it so much. Say if you're banking on playing a Be Prepared on a turn and they Pete you, you're now going to think, oh, I just have to flood characters and try and fight the board with my characters then, or just do anything else. And then they might even Pete you the next turn. If they have 2 Petes in hand, they'll play Pete. And imagine if you had 4 Petes in hand, that's 4 turns of no actions from your opponent. It's going to be crazy. And you could probably achieve that with the card draw in Sapphire. So it's just a card like that, bring it into the list, and we might not even, you can flood the board with a Tamatoa and an aerial or a Bell or like anything that quests for a lot. Play a Pete, stop them from doing anything. And it's just, I can't not reiterate the point of how powerful I think Pete is going to be. I think he's probably going to bring as much annoyance as Bucky did as well. So I think he's just card's going to be standout. It's the amount of value you get, and you also get a 3/3 that quests for 1 on board. If that was an action, play this. If this card was an action, you play it, and then your opponent can't do actions until the next turn. I think if people would even play that, but because it's a character, so you even get more value out of it. I just think it's amazing. I think this card is just going to be played so much. So yeah, if you haven't looked at the cards, you're going to get used to Pete. I can't see why you wouldn't 4x it because the value of stopping an opponent's actions is great. You could even you want to stop them digging and you play against a Ruby Sapphire and they can't even develop their brain or how far you go or anything. Still just got so many good cards here. We didn't even need to get a B pref or a board wipe card activated because we just got this. which is even better, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I just don't want to devote any more time to talking about Pete, but overall, all the cards, if I was to write a tier list, Pete just shines above everything, and then everything else is fair game for interest. So when I build my next deck, and I'll probably do a video on it, or post it in 20 Law or somewhere, it's Pete and Kuzco just go in there, and then everything else is worth testing, because I can probably say those two cards are just so valid for set 5. But yeah, I hope some of these points was worth listening to.